What?
Which stream's live?
That was it? Nope. Just put it in there. Come on, 5 more. 16, that's Ross. And
Okay, so there we are. Good evening. Welcome to CDR Tier 3 uh, over in Miami at a slightly earlier time than usual because of the real life Grand Prix starting at 9 o'clock this evening. So we've had to put forward by an hour and a hour or so. Let's see what tire everybody has fitted. Bearing in mind it is a sprint weekend, so using the medium will then take away a medium set for the feature. Well, we'll scrap a set for the feature, so we might only see the one run through quali here, or drivers doing one run on a set of mediums and then moving on to the set of softs for later on in the race. As that does appear to be Anderson as the first man out on track. It is who's he followed by both McLarens of Luke and Dexter, and Lucas just behind. As Nerfback leaves the pits, Luke leaves the pit, which I think that will just be to be dialing his setup and making sure that it's correct. So right on board with Anderson, as Miami is a particularly tricky Grand Prix. The circuit very tight in places, especially through the chicane and the following hairpin. Very easy to invalidate on through the chicane and flip a wall on the exit, as he does get very close to it on the exit of his outlap. Burning ERS on his outlap is not advisable, but he is just coming down to the final hairpin, well, penultimate corner, where if you run just ever so slightly wide, keep two wheels past the exit curb, it's invalidating this and next lap. So he starts his first flyer. See, there's a little bit of traffic in sector 1 that should be clear by the time he gets to the end of it. Very wide line through 3. And good evening, Pine Size. Nice to see you back on track, as Luke has retired and will start P19 or P20 from the sprint, depending if Riker makes it in before the end. So 31 flat for Anderson through sector 1. Evening, Lucas. As Anderson is coming up to this little left-right before the chicane, it is very easy to outbrake yourself and end up running way too deep and putting yourself offline for the rest of that little section of track, as he does invalidate through the chicane. As Chip has just gone through the first sector at 30.1. Ninja's just about to start a flying lap. James Brown is out on a lap. Lucas just gone through sector 2. Purple sector 2. So be interesting to see what happens here and what he actually does. Max Mario does a 27.7. That's a solid lap time on a set of mediums. See what Lucas can pull out of the bag. Does a 26.9, so goes 8 tenths quicker. Nerfback is on a 28.2. Riker is in, so that means that we have all 20 drivers. Marshall just coming through the end of sector 2. Kyle is invalidated. Ninja is not too far behind. Claymore's about to finish his lap, as James Brown does 28 lap. So what can Claymore do? He's into the pits, so he's opting not to finish that lap. Skip has put himself up into P3. James Brown is now P4. Hindsight 5th. Ninja in P6. Marshall 7th. Nerfbag 8th. Full Send Dave on a 31 flat, so that could have been a fuel burning lap. We don't know because it's 3 seconds off the pace. And Claymore forgot to turn his ERS on. We've all been there. Sometimes you forget it. You turn it off on your out lap just as you leave the pits, and it becomes something that you just forget. Turn back on. But as Dave is 1.8 up through Sector 2 and Purple Sector 2, so that is looking at putting him in and around that 29 flat, so he still needs to find something major in that final sector. I didn't catch his first sector time, so I'm not sure how quick he went through Sector 1, but nice run through the penultimate hairpin. Stays off the curb at the final corner and puts himself up in P9 with a 28.3. As Curly is just coming down to the final actual corner of the lap, which is a heavy braking zone into a very tight hairpin. It does a 28.6 on a set of softs, but that was his second run. Riker is on his outlap now. CV Gold is on an outlap with a Ferrari getting out of his way. I'm trying to work out what Ferrari that was. It might have been Curly. Yeah, it was Curly. As Pintside is returning after a little bit of a hiatus. Let's see if he has found any more pace, because before his hiatus he had found some and was started to challenge the Q2 and higher up the points as he just gets a little bit too deep into the hairpin. Does cost himself a whole bunch of time through the exit, but he can learn. Still got enough time that if he feels this lap has gotten away from him, he can drop into the pits and take a set of softs, which I've got a feeling he will do. Yep. As we will go and jump on board. Let's see if he goes. No, it's still on his outlap. Dexter's just started his. Riker is one of two on an outlap, on a time lap, because Carl and Curly are on in laps. Unless Curly feels like he can go again and improve. As Curtis CV Gold has been showing decent pace in practice. See what he's got through Sector 1. Purple Sector 1 with a 29.7. There we go, and following round the rest of this lap, as it's only him and Curly that are on a time lap at Riker at the moment. As Riker completed his lap, yep, Riker has and put himself up into P2 with a 27.7. So 8 tenths between Lucas and Riker, and bear in mind Lucas has done this on the slower tyre, as CV Gold has purpled the middle sector as well. All it takes now is just for a solid final couple of corners, and he's out of deployment. He's run out slightly early, but has he made up enough time through the rest of the lap to not make that worry, as he does a 27 flat. So that overuse of deployment ultimately cost him in the end, but he's got closer to Lucas than anybody else. And now we're starting the final runs. Got to find out who is actually further up the track. Lucas is on an in lap. Curly's retired. James Brown is coming round as Ninja leaves the pits. So a little bit teabag, just a little bit of a sore throat, but and so I think it will be James Brown next, unless it is one of the Ferraris, and that will be Pinesize is on an outlap. So James Brown looking to improve, gets a nice run through the chicane. Purple's the middle sector. So is Ninja gonna now get a tow from James Brown for his flying lap? This could be interesting between the Saubers. Are they trying to play it as a team game? As James Brown goes up into third with a 27.5, still 6 tenths off, well, just over half a second off of Lucas. Evening Web. Max is up into third, finding almost 6 tenths on himself. Chip is down on his time. Riker is completely his run. Claymore has put himself up into P7 with a great lap time, which I did miss most of. Hindsight's on an invalid lap. Um, Honestly, he's just been practicing with myself and Mechanical during the weeks and just been listening, and has moved over onto a wheel very early on in his league racing career. So he's not gotten used to the pad too much before making the jump. And he is getting a lot quicker race by race. It's just going to be if the race consistency can be there too, which I do hope it does start to come through. As Ninja hits the brakes for the final time, now it's just a flat out run to the final, or to the start finish. Puts himself up into P5, beats his teammate by fractions. As Anderson has not completed a lap. Neither has also. Pinesize did a 29 flat, which 4 tenths off of the back of Curly. But is he on another run, or is this his in lap? His ERS deployment is low. Well, battery is low, but he's still got plenty of that battery deployment to use. Yeah, should be in with a shout of. Well, it won't be most improved of the season because it's his first full season, but definitely should be within a shout of acknowledgement somewhere along the line. Yeah, pint size just a little bit rusty after some time away. It does happen. So sprint pole goes to Lucas with CV Gold in P2, Bulls and Dave third, Max fourth, Ninja fifth, James Brown rounded out a Sauber third row. Pip Hazard, Riker, Nerf, Claymore in the Aston, Hindsight, Marshall, Dexter, Carl Trim, Ross, Curly, Pint Size, also Anderson, and then Luke down at the bottom. Yeah, he's gone from looking at grabbing a couple of points every other race to solid points contender. Reserved in Tier 1 Friday night and grabbed P15, I think it was, which is it's an achievement for any driver, let alone somebody who's only been league racing for 10 rounds. So the improvement is definitely there to be seen, and it just goes to show on how much practice goes when it comes to developing as a driver, not just on pace, but on your awareness of where to put your car. And now we're running into the sprint. Starting second, he's going to have to fend off a lot of very fast guys behind him if he wants to take a sprint podium and a handful of points to go into the feature with. As now, I would expect to see everybody on a set of mediums. Yep, there we go. And evening also. Nice you to nice you to check in between sprint quali and the sprint race. So the sprint weekend is short quali for the sprint. Then the sprint is normally about a third of the feature race distance. So in this case, we have 10 laps of sprint race, 29 laps in the feature. But then we also have in between a sprint, a feature quali. So once the sprint race is over and done with, cars are back out from Parc Ferme. If they feel like there's any change to setups that need to be made, they can make the changes. So if the rear end is feeling a little bit too light, they can make the changes there. Parc Ferme lifts between the two sessions, so setup changes are allowed, so you can benefit for the full pace of the session. So basically run a quali setup or low fuel setup for the sprint quali and sprint race, then run your actual full race setup for the feature quali and feature race, which we do see some people do. Some people will opt to keep the same setup the entire race weekend, but it will be an interesting one as to if anybody angles the car at anybody that they are nearby in the championship, as I have seen a few people been doing this, as TV Gold and Lucas both missed their grid slot, so they get moved back. Oh, that's not going to be fun for either of them, especially when they've got Dave there, Ross, and also having the same fate. There, and lights are out. Away we go for the sprint. Everybody seems to be getting off the line fairly cleanly as we just drop back through the field to see if any. That is a Haas that is taken to the inside of turn 3. That appeared to be Max that had dived off the track to avoid a collision, as we have come through pretty much the danger zone of lap 1. It will only be so bad, well, only can get worse with the introduction of DRS. Nobody did give me a weather update, so I don't know if we're going to get any rain anytime soon, as Riker and Hindsight are swapping places. It is Riker round. Nope, just ghosted for a moment, so it did look like he'd gone round. Marshall and Pintsize are battling at the back. As Full Send has got CV Gold. as Max tries to take a look up the inside with an opportunistic move. But Dave has used a lot of that ERS on lap 1. I know it's a sprint, but it's still 10 laps. You've got to manage it through the race. James Brown and Chip, Ninja and Chip, sorry, wrong Salva, swapping places. Nerfpack is still fending off his teammate. Hindsight is not going to be too far off the bat, with Dexter looking at getting into the top 10 for... Oh, Dexter's had a moment. Is that a connection issue, or... It looked like a slight bit of a desync there. But Claymore is up and past him, as that is Ross out. Where is Ross crashed? I think Ross has crashed in the same place I did. Which is the end of Sector 1, the long sweeping left. That gets tighter and slower the further through it you go. And I just put the power down too early and cut the barrier on the outside. But everything seems to settle down. It's just DNF, no virtual safety car required. As Lucas is just driving away with this now, he's got 2.6 seconds at the front. As Chip is going round the outside of Nerfback there. It's a great move. See on how much they feather the throttle going through this little section. There we go, and just plants it on the exit. That is Ninja getting a little bit sideways, and that is a big group of cars that are looking to pounce on any mistake he makes, and being at the front of that pack, he might want to give up a place, recharge that ERS. There we go. So Riker is now ahead of him, which means that he should get it DRS along the next straight if he can keep it within track limits through the chicane. Takes a much tighter line. I don't think he needs to be spending this ERS now. All he's doing is going to put him back at a disadvantage for the next straight, because yet move's done. Well, we thought he was done. Ninja had to get on the brakes and basically come to a halt because Riker went through the corner. I'm going to watch this on board from Playmo's point of view, because these two could ultimately end up costing them a front wing if they ever come in together. Both of them are pretty much out of battery, and Claymore does have more. So there we go. Just waited on Ninja to make a mistake. As Carl Trim is now going to try the same thing as Claymore and just get in the DRS and just slipstream his way up. Ninja has slipped down to the back of this little pack, as Max is now up into P2. So see we go, dropping from P2 down to P5 in 4 laps. It's still a good attempt. Well, great start to the race weekend for him. Bearing in mind, feature quality is still to come, and a longer race could prevail on his strategy or pace. Slightly outbrakes himself there as Carl has tried to look up the inside but just couldn't get the drive. So Luke is now on the back. Curly's not too far away. As Anderson just slips past Marshall as I jump back on board with him. then Arsenal and Pinesides are just having a little race of their own at this point. Lucas is driven away with this. He's comfortable out in front. Max is comfortable at the moment from full send Dave. There's 1.1 between them. So Dave's going to have a great little sector through here to pull back sometime. It is fully possible to do that, but you've got to have complete faith in that brake pedal and to be able to just send it through that chicane and not worry about what's on the opposite side. But I've got a feeling that Dave will be running a low rear wing because of the amount he's helped pull back in along the straight. As James Brown's had a little bit too much curb through the penultimate corner. Nerf Pack has got ahead of CV Gold. Dexter is now ahead of Marshall. Luke is now ahead of Hindsight. Ninja is now down to P13. But it does look like Ninja is going back at Hindsight. Oh! As Kylie just gets too much of a run. Let's take a look at the driver's standings going into today for Tier 3. So Marshall is only 4 points ahead of Nerf Pack at this stage, as Claymore has gotten up past Riker. So as it stands, Nerf Pack will have done enough to go into the feature race ahead at a level with Marshall, and Max will have done enough to have brought that gap down to just a couple of points. So by the end of the feature, Marshall could go from first to third in the driver's standings, depending on how the feature pans out for him. Miami is a very difficult track, and it's not particularly the best for overtaking. You've got to kind of pick your place and be sat behind a car for a lap or two before you make the move. As we're only 7 laps in, and Lucas is now 4.2. Sorry about that. Ow. That's Colin Riker swapping places in a very tricky place to get the move done. Just goes to show how much Luke is not pushing. The fact that he's still got 75% of his DRS. Also picking up a time penalty around a track where there's very few places to actually run wide in a 10-lap race. Well done, also. As that is actually also looking at the back of Anderson, who has outbraked himself, and I don't know what happened there. This Ninja is losing another place. as here comes Curly. Car's got past Chip. Oh, that's a big lock-up from Marshall. That little chicane is all about how much curve you wish to take without invalidating. You've basically got to absolutely violate the entrance curve to then get the best run through it, but it's very easy to unsettle the car mid-corner by doing that. Ninja's now looking at getting a run back on. Oh, also has finally got past Anderson, a lap later. That was very close to the wall front call. With a very wide entrance line into the end of Sector 2. Well, end of Sector 1 by Claymore. But he's just squared off the exit. James Brown is still on the back of CV Gold. These mediums will now be starting to feel horrendous at this point in the race. It's just how much faith do you still have in the grip that you've got left. As Nerfpack has got past Fools and Dave, so Dave is now facing Dave. As we've got a caution in Sector 2, that is a Ferrari, which I'm going to presume was pint size. Yeah, it was indeed. Yeah. James Brown up into fifth. Lucas retired in the pits, so that promotes everybody behind in one place. Is this Curly going to pit and quit? Or is Curly... Oh no, it was Curly in the wall, not pint size. I do apologise. As Lucas is driven away with this, 5.4 seconds in a sprint race is ridiculous. As Max has almost had a moment through the end of Sector 2, those tyres will not be feeling great. As Luke the Colby just said, entertaining, but the amount of missing end plates on people's cars. As Lucas now takes the line for a sprint race win, just completely emptying that battery, why not? Max Mario is going to come home in second. Nerfpack in third, with Full Send Dave only half a second behind. James Brown, CV Gold picking up a handful of points in the sprint. Claymore 7th, Carl 8th, Rack and 9th, Chip rounding out the top 10. Then Iron Marshall, Hindsight, Dexter, Ninja, also Anderson, Pint Size, and Curly. So that's the sprint over and done with. And now I just have to wait to get the results, the actual formal results, not just the ones I read out. But well driven for the most part. I didn't really see anything that was against, well, too bad in terms of racing etiquette. So as I said, Lucas, Max, and Nerfback making up the podium for the sprint, followed by Full Send Dave, James Brown, CB Gold, Claymore, Carl Trim, Ryako, Chip, Marshall, Captain Hindsight, Dexter, Ninja, also Anderson, Pint Size Curly, and then the two retirements of Luke and Ross. But while we wait for the first runs of well, we'll see what tire everybody has. There we go. So Marshall and Ninja opting for the medium, so it's Full Send Dave to start. I am going to be back in a few minutes. Just gonna go grab a fresh drink and a couple other bits just while the first runs of Q1 come out. Well, of feature quality come out. So bear with me for a few minutes and then I'll be back. Sorry about that. And I am back as Q Lucas is set off in the same vein of form he did in sprint quali and the sprint race. So he's looking at as the man to beat at the moment. As Carl Trim is just about to finish his lap. It's only a short run to the line. Improves and goes into P4. Almost a second separates the top 5. Also, was in the garage. Marshall is on an in lap. Ross is just coming around the middle of sector 2. Nerf back and just not too far behind. That's an out laps and Pint Size is in that little gaggle of cars too. So they've just got to pick up a nice Nerfback's got to pick up a nice toll here from the cars ahead. Able to turn that ERS onto medium and still pick up enough time. Where is it going to put him? Does a 25.3 on a set of mediums. Nice lot. As Ross spots himself in P12 with a 28.7, or round out to a 28.7. CV Gold is out. Purple's first sector. Bearing in mind he was only a fraction off of sprint pole, so see what he can do. Evening Stingray, I was wondering when you'd be showing up. So I know that you'll be here for Arso. Let's see what Arso can do in the future. As CV Gold also purples the middle sector. So it's now just purely down to ARS deployment. There's no Q2 tonight. It's a sprint weekend, so you've already missed a sprint quali and sprint race. As he goes P2. So those racing bulls are looking very, very quick tonight as Team Ninja puts himself into P3. Nerfback is still P5, P6 now with that medium run. Hindsight is up on his time through sector 1, only by a handful, well, a fraction of time. That's a much better run through that chicane. Track's rubbing in a little bit as he purples the middle, so half a second up, that's going to put him at a 27.3-ish, which is going to put him in around about Dave category. Full Send Dave, in between Full Send Dave and Max, if he can hold it. As that Ferrari right on the exit of the penultimate corner. Yep, puts himself between Full Send Dave and Max Mario. And I've not been lumped with it. I said last week that I would do it because Dan has had a season full of comms. JJ is off, and Nat has had a personal thing to deal with. So my offer from last week stood. So I just jumped in. It's just part of being admin. We do what we need to do if we're running short of members. as Anderson puts himself up into P4. That's a solid lap from Anderson. Now it's only 3 and a bit temps separating the top 4 instead of a second. So separating the top 5. Who is actually on a lap is Marshall. Marshall is currently 2 temps under through sector 1. So unless he had a big moment through this next sector, he needs to find something somewhere. As Steve says, he's not racing. Well, Hound says he's not racing due to being tattooed the other day and doesn't want it scraping against the wall, which is fair enough. I know the itchiness that comes with that after I've raced, after having my back tattooed. Being sat in your rig is uncomfortable at best, as Marshall gets what looked like a very close to the wall and exit of the hairpin. Does improve, but only improves enough to stay where he is. As T Sammy has commented and saying, let's go. V-Carb. And I'm doing a Japanese themed back piece for me. So I've done between my shoulders and up to the back of my hair on my neck. Very tender places. Would not recommend. As Marshall is now ahead of one of the Saubers, which I think is James Brown. James Brown is only on an outlap, so it's not going to be particularly too difficult for Marshall to move out of his way. As Lucas is still sat in the pits. I think Lucas will come out again for another run. Paul Dave is on an outlap. We'll see on how long. Yeah, so complete fresh sets of tyres for everybody. James Brown just starting that lap. Fresh track ahead of him. Nobody leaving the pits, nobody around. So he's got no excuse to have a clean lap here. Flat through 5, 6, and then this long sweeping left that tightens and slows as you get towards the end of it. It's a great run through the exit, almost 3 temps up on his lap, which is going to put him in around about that 27.4 range. So that top from 4th to like 8th, 4th to 12th aren't particularly far apart. A good run through a couple of corners will make a big difference, and it seems like James Brown is finding the time that he needs. Clean through that chicane. It gets a good run out the hairpin. It's almost half a second up now, so yeah, he's putting himself in that ballpark of Ninja. Could this be a V-Carb versus Saubers off the line for the feature race? Which, if it is, that would be an interesting way to start. As yet, goes P5. As CV Gold's gone out, Ninja's gone out again. Ninja's and Anderson out again. Max has gone out again. Chip is on a lap, just finishing it. Can he improve from P9? He does. He puts himself up into P4. Yeah, we were on about this earlier, Dan, with CV Gold's improvement. Um, has moved from pad to wheel, um, and now on manual gears too. So the change is drastic. Uh, so I would say one of the better recommendations, coming from me when it comes to looking at filling out the grid, as also says in 10 races he'll be in tier one. He's shown in the last couple of weeks that he can qualify with the tier two guys and not be knocked out immediately. But personal opinion, I'd let him sit in tier three for another season or two and find his beating or his footing and just improve on racecraft. So, not saying there's anything wrong with it, just it sounds like someone who's afraid. Yeah, I'm afraid of having somebody else that could potentially beat me. I already have enough of those every single week. We're 10 rounds in and I've scored like 103 points, I think it is. So I'm averaging just over 10 points a race, which is what, something like P5 every week. Yeah, so I get that feeling. Well, also, it would help if you left the pits and actually set a lap time. James Brown is retired, so let's see. Nerf Pack finds almost six temps and drops into the 26 nines. Anderson, also a 26 9. Max 27 flat. CV Gold is currently invalid, so he will be started at P5 at best. Ninja's in the pits. Bullseye Dave's in the pits. Hindsight is on an in lap. Claymore is currently over his lap time. Down in 13th. Riker has jumped him into P12. Carl is currently the only one improving. And Carl puts himself up into 12th. Claymore has improved through sector 2. So is he doing enough to improve and move up away from that P14 is currently in? It's a much better run out the penultimate corner. It stays where he is in 14th. So Pine Size is currently 3 seconds down. Everybody has finished their lap, so he could have just taken the flag. As Carl has thanked Hindsight for what I'm presuming is a tow. As he's just said, thanks for the teamwork. But that is sprint quality over. Lucas has improved and done a 26.7. And where I said about Marshall could leave this weekend going from first to third in the driver standings, it could be worse than that because James Brown wasn't too far off the pace. He was only 20 something points, less than 20 points behind, if my memory serves me correctly. So there we have it. Full Send Dave did his on mediums, did not do a soft run for some reason, but Marshall starting right at the back. That's not where he needs to be or wants to be as the championship leader. And Lucas starting right at the front with Anderson, with Nerf, Anderson, and Max not too far behind. So yeah, James Brown only being 22 points behind Ian Marshall. At the end of last week, it is very tight. So 22 points separating first and fourth, and the driver standings in Tier 3. Ooh, and now 29 laps of what could be absolute chaos to come in the next half an hour, 40 minutes. Well, the next 43 to 45 minutes. If we don't have any safety cars of hopefully exciting racing. And the last thing we want is a safety car fest. So keep it clean, guys. Yeah, Stingray. Never heard of her. No, never heard of her. Yeah, safety cars are something that Otto knows all too well about. He is like me and the leading cause of them for his respective tier. Poor Otto. But it's very easy to lose an end plate around here. Very easy. So we'll take a look at the tyre strats. So Lucas, Nerf Pack, Anderson, Max, and CV Gold all starting on the mediums. Ninja, the only one inside the top 6, to start on the hards. Then Chip, James Brown, and Full Send. Chip and James Brown on the mediums. Full Send Dave is on the hards. So only 2 inside the top 10 on the hards, as Hindsight starts on the mediums. So they're trying to maximize the hards because the mediums feel groggy after about 5 or 6 laps. They don't feel brilliant. But the hards can go between 20 and 23 laps and still feel relatively drivable. So if there's an early safety car, like within lap, say 5, 6, the hards to the end is a very achievable strat. But if there isn't, then these hard runners will be looking at going to the end and maybe going hard soft. Then Dexter and Carl opted for the hards, Riker and Claymore on the mediums, Curly on the hards, Ross on the mediums, Pinesize on the hards, Marshall also, and Luke again on the mediums. I wonder if also has fueled his car enough for the race, as we just see them weaving along the back straight as Lucas pulls up. There we go, I'll play on interval and I'll turn that off for now, and at the end of lap 1 we'll revisit who's the biggest winner and loser from. I'm just trying to get a good view of the entire grid. Also without fuel, yeah. As everybody seems to get a relatively clean start, and that is Lucas covering off. Oh, that was a little bit of contact between Anderson and Nerf Pack. Chip, James Brown is up past Chip. CV Gold has dropped a couple of places. Ninja is up. Claymore has had a great start. Full Send Davis dropped. Riker and Marshall trading. Dexter and Ross trading. Oh, that looked like that was Carl in a wall on the exit. As Claymore's got past CV Gold, who is in a wall. Hopefully that is just him bouncing off of it and no wing damage. Just got swamped on lap 1 by the looks of it. Possibly a bad start or cold tyres. We'll see on how as that bollard isn't. The track limits is no longer there. Lucas is already gapped by almost 3/4 of a second as they hit the brakes for the final time this lap. So he'll still be within DRS if it can be held at this gap for the rest of the lap. Well, for the first half of the lap. With there being 3 DRS detection zones around here. So at the end of sector 1, beginning of sector 2, after the chicane and hairpin complex and along the back straight and the start finish straight, all single detection zones, so no dual detections. So the car getting ahead in one DRS zone won't have it again for the next one. A bit like in Australia and Hungary, where it's one detection zone for 2 DRS zones. As James Brown is on the back of Max, Claymore has got past Ninja. Also, Dave past Carl Trim. CV Gold's just settled into his own race at this point. Riker, Dexter, Marshall, Luke, Ross, Curly, also Captain Hindsight and Pint Size all follow behind, with Pint Size being off the back of Captain Hindsight already. I mean, first race back and it being Miami, it is difficult. So it is a very difficult race to come back to, as we have Full Send Dave being looked at by Carl, but Carl opted for the safe run through that hairpin and opted not to make the move. Anderson has caught back up to Lucas, as Lucas has deployed more ERS at this stage. Max and Nerfback are still at it like they have been all season. These two literally race side by side in person, so a lot of screen watching will be going on between the pair of them. As can we see a move made by Max? No, he's not close enough. But will he get the run? Oh, he's got almost double the battery of Nerfback, so it appears that Max has the better pace at this stage in the race. This is where you deploy everything you can. DRS detection zone is a long way out, as we saw Lucas there pulling massively out the slipstream of Anderson, just to move back over just before the braking zone, and it has compromised his entrance into that hairpin, losing him just over a tenth. But so biggest winner and losers so far in lap 4. Anderson's up 1, James Brown's up 3, Chip's up 1, Claymore up 7, Ninja's down 2, Carl is up 3, Full Send Dave's down 1, CV Gold is down 6, Riker's up 1, Marshall's up 5, Dexter down 3, Luke's up 5, Hindsight's down 6, Ross is down 1, Osso is up 1, Pineside's down 2, and Curly down 5. So it just seems to be that Miami is a torrid race for both Ferraris, as that appeared to be Pineside's moving slowly. But are we going to see Lucas pull straight over to the inside barrier like he has been? Nope. This time he opts to stay in the middle of the track and move back over a little bit earlier. So Anderson is not letting him go yet. And bear in mind, at this stage in the race, we will start to be getting a little bit of tyre slip. Grip won't be exactly what it was a few laps ago. The medium runners will now start to think about what lap they'll want to pit. As that's James Brown and Max going at it. Sorry, Chip. Look like possibly a track limit warning for James Brown there. At this point, Davey's having a very lonely race down there in 9th, but he is on the back of Ninja. And appears to, yep, he has DRS, but so does Ninja. Both on roughly the same battery. So, Ninja turning it off through this little complex of corners because it's the heaviest braking zones of the lap. We'll turn it off, recharge at about 50%, and then he can redeploy through the DRS zone. Not going to lose too much by turning it off, as Anderson does actually have the lead now. That Merc looking very quick as Lucas is not giving it up. Great move around the outside. I'm just trying to see how close. There we go. Also picking up a 3-second time penalty from multiple warnings about track limits. Curly is in the pits. Is that for a wing change? Or is that just... That's a pit and quit from Curly. Yeah, it's one on average every 2 laps, Stingray. So, so proud of him. Give me a second. As there is now a caution in sector 1 because of Curly's car leaving the pits, but Anderson and Lucas are still going at this. Has Anderson dropped off? Lucas dropped off to recharge his ERS there. It would appear so, as also has now been overtaken by Ross. Carl Trim moving up. There we go, Lucas. Dexter 3-second time penalty. Those time penalties do cost you in the end, especially with a tightly packed field like this. So everybody's Ross also picking up a time penalty there. So here's and Osso's battle is costing them both time and track limit warnings, as Full Send Dave has made his way up past Claymore. So this is where the hards will now start to be the superior tyre, which is the switch over between the two. So you should see the hard runners now starting to gain a little bit more traction out of the corners. The mediums will start to be falling off, especially in the next lap to 2 laps. They will be about 40% worn on the rears at this stage. not exactly a place you want to be, especially if you're one of the medium or no T traction control runners, especially if you've also running no ABS. Very easy to lock a wheel under braking, and once you've found that flat spot once, you'll just find it time and time again. Hindsight's just not having a great race to come back to, unfortunately. It's almost half a lap down compared to the leaders, as Lucas is now regained another 7 tenths after overtaking Anderson. Max is still all over the back of Nerf. Pulse and Dave and Claymore trading places again. Oh, that's Brave up the inside. Hugs the wall though to make sure he doesn't drift away from Claymore. Great positioning of the car. Just stayed as tight to the wall as he could to make sure that he wasn't going to run wide into Dave's side pod and put Dave round. Dave is at the front of this pack though, with more ERS, but you can't do anything to the... Oh, what happened to Ninja? I saw him outbrake himself. Yep, that's Ninja into the pits. Get it stopped. That's CV Gold into the pits, as I said, between like lap 9 and 11 for the mediums that you want them off. So wing change for the pair of them. Salwin have had plenty of those on hand this season. They had to order an extra for myself, but rarely used. As Nerfback is still defending for his life. And Marshall struggling to make any progress at the moment. He's down in P18. Yes, he has stopped. Along with Ninja's gone onto the mediums. That's a brave decision with 20 laps to go. Is he hoping for another for a safety car later on? As Max has positioned himself in such a way that if James had gone for the overtake, it would have boxed him in. And that is Lucas in. I'm not sure if yeah, it's Ninja being Ninja. Yeah, I started on the hard, so he had to change for the mediums at some stage. That's what I was just about to ask. What was more powerful, the undercut or the overcut here? Because Tier 2 Friday night we had rain and a safety car, so nobody really pitted in race trim, as that's Dexter in the pits. The medium runners will now be in, as the hard runners seems to be the undercut for every track. Yeah, I'd say except for Coulter, because at Coulter, if you can hang on to your tyres for that extra lap, James Brown gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That's going to cost him in the end, especially with a championship battle to contend with too. And the two guys he's going to be battling out with now for the title to the end of the season are directly ahead of him, as Chip has made a lovely move up the inside under braking. Anderson is in, so we'll see where Anderson filters out compared to Lucas. Lucas is down in P12. Yeah, the undercut has massively helped. Yeah, perfect move under braking from Chip. We got it lined up, got it stopped and turned in. Didn't run through the apex. Just as textbook as it can come. Really, it is nice to see moves like that being made, and neither driver being able to complain post race about it. So, one of the highlight overtakes of the weekend from where I've been sat. So that has actually cost Lucas Anderson 1.3 seconds to Anderson to Lucas. So he's actually lost about another 7 tenths by deciding to stay out a lap longer on those mediums than what Lucas did. But he will have fresher tyres for a lap. It swings and roundabouts at this stage, but at this point Lucas's tyres will be up to temp and ready to go. Anderson will have to play a cautious game for the first lap, maybe lap and a bit, to get them up to temp. Curly pit and quit, as we've actually jumped on board with Ross making a move on also, which he made the move. Oh no, also I'm not going to repeat that. If he is your teammate, you can have private words in your team group chat, but or DMs, but I'm not going to say that one out loud. As Dave on those hards is still very, very racy compared to Claymore on those mediums. And here comes Lucas on the back. Oh! As Claymore gets a straight 3-second penalty for corner cutting. From what I saw, that was a little bit of contact that pushed him over the curb, instead of him taking the corner like he would have done. Lucas now having to make his way back through the pits. Well, back through the pack. Claymore 10-second penalty for it's all gone wrong on that lap. And he won't be able to serve it now because it's been added to his time for the next time he stops, if he does stop again. Pit lane entrance here, very deceiving. Looks like you should slow for the chicane that's on the way into the pit lane, and that is, the limiter will be after it. The limiter is just before it. As an engine's getting very sideways through that couple of corners. James Brown is back past Chip. Max is now down into P8. So Colin, Dave are leading the race by default. Lucas is still net P1. Anderson net P2. Nerf net P3, James Brown net P4, with Chip net P5, and Matt's now net P6. Very lonely race once you get past Chip and Max. It is now we've settled into the basically half race distance. Drivers have completed their first stops, so the field is spread a little bit. The only thing that would bring this back together is a safety car, which a few of the drivers would be wanting. So also in particular, Claymore with that, both with those 10-second penalties for speeding in the pit lane. As Lucas is past Full Send Dave and Carl simultaneously. It looks like he got them under braking into the little left-right. As Osso is now struggling to get the power down by the sound of that through back end of those long lefts. I'm not quite sure if it counts as one corner or three, so give me a second and I'll get the track map up. So yeah, the long left at the end of sector 1 actually does count as 3 corners. It's 6, 7 and 8. And then you've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 that make up sector 2. So between 9 and 6 and 8, also is just seemingly struggling to get the power down. It's just not helping. So the sequence of corners we're coming up to now, easy to snatch a wheel on the curb there. This is 6, 7 and 8. 8 now. As is he gonna sit behind with the DRS and do a little bit of a recharge and then go for the attack in a couple of laps, because Ninja is just up the road on a set of mediums. Hindsight and Marshall, no slouches in their own right, just not having particularly good races today. As say that Marshall's had a moment that's made him ghost, so that should be Hindsight being able to at least get him now. Yeah, it hasn't even deployed his ERS, he's just got him straight on DRS. As we'll watch to see on how much of a gap was left. Great move. As Luke is now up into P7, Riker is following him through Claymore. That's because Full Send Dave was up to... Oh! Be careful on the pit lane exit, guys. As we saw, that almost cost both guys their race. I know that you want to race, once the limiter comes off, you want to race out and retain as much track position as possible. But there's only so much that you can do, as James Brown is back up past Chip. As Claymore and Carl are going at it. James bundling over that curb for the hairpin, which you can take surprisingly a lot of for track limits before it invalidates or gives you a warning. You've just then got to worry about bouncing off the track on the opposite side and straight into the wall. But if you can find a line that works for it by taking a lot of track, well, a lot of curb, it is an easy-ish corner to get away with track limits on. Same as turn 1 here. So 1, 2, 3. And then you've got 4 and 5, which are easy to snatch a curb, and then 6, 7, 8. It's very easy to snatch a curb through 4 and 5. And the car just wants to snap back the other way and slide in the opposite direction to what you're actually turning in. As Full Send Dave and Claymore are still going at this. Oh, little bit of contact. as Marshall is up past Hindsight now. Ninja should be making a little bit more progress on these mediums than what he is compared to the cars around him. Like, he's had them on 8 laps, so they're all but done at this stage. I know he's on slightly lighter fuel than when he started the race. They're on just under half of their fuel load, so they'll be feeling a little bit better. There we go. I think Claymore got a little bit brave on the brake pedal there. Just be thankful that there's some runoff before the wall on the exit. As we'll take a look at penalties. So James Brown on 3 seconds, Claymore on 16, so 2 times track limits, 1 time speeding in pit lane. Hindsight on 10, CV Gold, nothing. That's got to benefit a lot of people behind Hindsight at this stage. Ross 3, Osso 13, Dexter 3, Hindsight is 10. So only a handful of drivers or so with penalties. It's not too bad as we take a look at biggest winners and losers at 18 laps in, so coming up to 2/3 race distance. Well, just over 2/3 race distance, as it is going to tick on to lap 19 in a second. So Anderson, James Brown, Chip, Luke, Riker, Carl, Claymore, Marshall, and Osso are the only drivers to have actually gained positions. Even though Riker says that he started 8th and is green 5 places. Don't know how that works. Hindsight and Ross picking up 3 seconds worth of penalties, respectively. So that's now 13. And Claymore has been just pit and quit by the looks of that. Yep. I'm not sure what that was for, as Nerf Pack is now ahead of Anderson. Max is now back up into P5. Well, the scrap for the podium here between James Brown, Anderson, Nerf, and Max is going to determine on who falls where in the driver standings by the end of tonight. So Max is put a move on James, which, just watch it unfold, just stay off that curb. Oh, James, don't move over that much. There was enough room to get through. As you see the sparks from both cars. Chip just trying his best to stay in the fight without being directly involved. Let's see who else is getting close. Yeah, it's spaced out quite well now. James and Max still going at it. Okay, that's not really where you want to be going too wide. But they've made it work just about. As Ninja is on the back of Hindsight. and Gold is on the back of him, and then Ross is just a little bit slow to get the power down, but knowing that he's got 7 seconds of penalties less than also, and Dexter is, it just seems like out of the heavy braking zones, they're just bogging down a little bit. So we'll jump back on with Dexter as he hits the brakes for the hairpin, and I just now it seems like there's very little pickup in that car. As that is Lucas coming round to lap pint size, and he's still got Max and Chip behind him, which haven't fallen into the trap of battling each other. Then they know if they just sit on the back of James Brown, then they're both picking up an additional place. But Nerfback now surely is out of touching distance. Yeah, he is. They've got to put some performance together in the last handful of laps or so to be able to catch Nerf. But I can see that James Brown is just going to sit and defend this and hope that he can force the attacking drivers into a mistake and hopefully allow them to pick up a penalty or two each. But it's nice to see patient driving from the two attacking cars behind instead of them forcing a move. But saying that, are we going to see a move up the inside now? Just wasn't close enough on the braking, but tried. And then if you just carry too much speed here, you end up pushing the other car through. But here we go. I'd say that's game over for James Brown there, as he takes a very tight line through the hairpin, but gets away with it and manages to just about, the pint size is just retired, so it's a pit and quit. As you see, Gold's had a moment. Slow it down for the pit lane. This is what I mean, the pit lane entry is there just before this little chicane. So the two stop on from a hard medium there, is that because he had needed another wing change, or don't know? But James Brown still fighting out with Max, and all they're doing at this stage is just letting Nerfback get further and further away. Chip aiming to capitalise here and go from P6 to P4. So Marshall picks up a 3-second penalty, but that's not going to really affect him too much unless Ninja can close up. Oh, looked like Chip was going to get the double switch pack there. As there's another little bit of contact between James Brown and Max. See who else is remotely close to each other. Oh, Nerf is actually closing on the back of Anderson. That's not where you don't want to get too close to that wall, as you can lose your front right wheel. Not that I'm speaking from experience. And see if Nerf might just be doing a couple of, yeah, they're both recharging, they're both anticipating the final lap assault here. There goes Nerf, up into P2. Gets it stopped and holds his line too. Takes the defensive line in, takes the defensive line out. But Anderson will now have DRS into turn 1. Only a short run into turn 1. So, we'll see on how close he gets. He's looking at it. As Max has finally got past James Brown. But DRS there we go. Sees James and Chip just fly past now. It's the risk you take when you're in a DRS train and you try and break the train. It just allows the other two to just constantly come back at you. So if you try and break that train, you gotta be determined that you are the quicker driver, and that you can get out of DRS range very quickly. But as there's not that many corners around here that you can break the toe or get a better run through, because a lot of the corners are single line corners. Like most of sector 1, you'll see the lines are very similar. The entrance line slightly different, but line through the corner very much the same, as we can see by watching Anderson and Nerf. Like Anderson even backs off midway through that long corner from 6 to 8 in order to hit the line he wants. But yeah, that's should be his under braking, as that's more than significantly alongside under braking. Just don't go through the corner, as we've got a yellow flag. Jeez. Luke's now caught up to the back of these. Yeah, Anderson's now taken off by 3/4 of a second, but DRS, it's powerful along this back straight. It's a very long back straight. Back down to under half a second. Even Riker's not too far off. You can just see that straggler cars ahead of him. Oh, there's Chip taking a little bit of a half spin. This is where the impatience starts to come into things. Being sat behind the same guy for 10 or so laps and just not being able to get clear. It leads to a little bit of frustration, and that frustration could lead to a move that wasn't particularly wanted and end up taking them out. So Luke is now just got to sit there and watch the three of them. As they're now all becoming desperate to retain track position from each other. Penultimate lap. Lucas and Anderson just driving away with it at the front. As Nerf gets a little bit too close under braking. Marshall has just broken into the top 10, but gonna lose that again to Dave, as Dave gets a beautiful switchback, but then loses it on the drive out the corner because of the age of the tires, which I'm gonna print. Yeah. That's those mediums are gone. Those hards have still got another lap or two in them before they'll start to scream. So all Dave's got to do is keep it within 3 seconds of Marshall to keep a top 10. And Ninja will inherit P12 at this rate. And CV Gold will inherit P14. But that 3-second penalty that James Brown has got is going to cost him heavily. As Lucas is halfway through sector 1 by the time that Dragler cars even makes it past the start-finish straight. We have a yellow flag. So that is Luke retiring in the pits, but he was a yellow flag, actually, the original yellow flag. But Marshall still will pick up possibly a top 10 if hindsight isn't too close. Oh, it's Ross ran out of fuel. Ross is out of fuel. So we'll go jump back on board with Lucas as he passes the stricken Haas. As he takes his... I think Ross wasn't out of fuel, he was just getting out of the way of blue flags. As Lucas actually sets his fastest lap of the race on the final lap. Anderson and Nerf Pack coming across the line. James Brown's going to drop significantly here. Great defensive drive from him after he got that 3-second penalty, but did just about enough to keep hold of P6. Well done. Marshall will drop down to, I believe, P10. Yeah, Ninja's too far behind. So Ninja takes 11th. Hindsight is actually running out of fuel by the sounds of that. Gold picks up 12th, hindsight at 13th. Also, is he? Yep. Picks up P14. Right. I will grab the race results and then invite the. So we'll re-grab the sprint results. So then we have those. Then the feature results. And we'll just double check that we get these. There we go. And then because we've only got 10 minutes until the real life Grand Prix, I will do the post race interviews in a second. So just bear with me. Well, there we go. So it's Lucas, Nerf, and Anderson. Evening.
Hello.
I'm just getting Anderson and Lucas. There we go. I know that we're pressed on time. We've only got 10 minutes before the real life Grand Prix gets underway. So hopefully these two join as quick as possible. But we'll just get it underway while we wait. Give them a couple of minutes. Going into this weekend, you knew that you could overhaul Iron Marshall for top spot in the drivers' standings.
I did. I did. It was in the back of my mind. I took me focus somewhere else because I knew that was there. But yeah, it was good. It was a good result in the sprint.
From my maths, I do believe you have done enough to now have outscored him by about 8 points. So,
Excellent. I'm back
not
on top.
no, that was just in the sprint.
Okay.
Um, and then feature, he only finished down in like P9, P10.
Yeah,
So
so
that 4 or 5 point gap he had to you, it should now be like a
zero,
15 point gap the other way.
which is a good way to be.
Yes. So knowing that going into a sprint weekend, double the chance to mess it up, double the chance to
Yeah.
have it swing your way at a track that
It's,
is, let's be honest, nobody's favorite.
no, what I think once I got into the swing of it, I was all right. I couldn't put a quali lap together.
Mm,
I was down in sixth, seventh somewhere, I think, to start with, to start on both on no on the sprint. Just couldn't get a lap together, couldn't get it. But then in the race, I just managed to overtake a few people. I think I overtook James at one point.
yeah, it's once you find your rhythm, especially
Yeah.
through that end of sector two. If you can
Yes.
hook that up, everything just the rest of the lap
It,
just
it just
seems to fall
worked.
into place.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good.
Um,
That I couldn't catch Lucas. There was no way I was going to get him.
no, that guy is another planet of quick for
Yeah.
tier three.
that's,
Um,
that's,
but knowing, as I said, knowing that you had the double chance to mess it up or even be hunted down by those behind you because as I said, James Brown was only on 103 points.
he was.
So if anyone had messed up there to capitalize,
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
um, sprint and just managing to hold your nerve, as well as I watched a lot of the mid pack of that race through the sprint and feature. You managing to get out ahead of it very early doors
Yeah,
saved your races
definitely,
because
definitely.
a lot of end plates and a lot of aggressive moves were going on.
It didn't seem very eventful from my
No,
point of view. There was no safety cars, there was no VSCs, so I've got no idea what was going on in the race, but it seemed all right. I think if a safety car had come out, it might have ruined the race
yeah,
because my strategy would have gone.
yeah, I think Ninja was hoping for a safety car but didn't get one.
Okay,
Because he went mediums, a hard medium,
right, okay.
but
A
he went,
couple of lads did that. I think Full Send Dave did that as well
yeah.
because I remembered him pitting in front of me.
And then Ross, right at the end, on no, sorry, hindsight, right on the final lap, ran out of fuel out of the penultimate corner.
Oh no. It was a good race overall. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, but it
Two good
doesn't.
results.
Yeah, it appears that the leader, the winner, and P2 are not going to be joining us.
Shame,
So,
really.
yeah, it is a shame. As I would have been nice to have a word with Lucas and Anderson, as I've got words for Anderson about last week. Just been sat in front of me all week. And I was staring at the back of a Williams for like 20 laps. It was annoying, but congratulations.
Sounds
Hopefully
good.
hopefully the driver standings reflect what I've said,
Good.
and hopefully after that you can actually go on to take the Tier 3 championship as
Well, that's the plan. That's the plan.
a
We'll have to
father and
see.
son battling it out now for the final 3 rounds, 3, 4 rounds. You got to keep Max at bay.
I've
Just,
got yeah, I've
do
got
you
to.
know what he could do if he starts getting a little bit too close for comfort?
Well,
Just ground him.
just ground him. Stop him going in. Yeah,
Yeah,
take his
just
PS off him.
you're grounded this week. You can't race. But anyway,
Agreed.
congratulations.
Thanks, you.
And Tier 3, we will be back the same time, the usual time next week.
Usual time,
Um,
8 o'clock.
yeah, because this, as I said at the top of the program, tonight was only brought forward due to the real life racing starting at 9 o'clock. So, congratulations to Podium Sitters and everybody that finished. Great racing throughout the field at times. And from us, thank you and good night.